Hi, my name is Fiona Grady. I'm a site responsive artist and I'm working with Haru today on a new installation for the HQ. So I would say that I'm a site responsive artist. So essentially I find venues to make work, or people invite me to come and install and design artworks. And with this one in particular, I was invited to work with the Haru tape range, which has lots of shades of bright and pastel colours. The process I made was to work on the design through Illustrator. So I made a mock-up of the floor plan, or just the walls within the space. And then I played around by looking first of all at the different widths of the tapes. So the Haru tape comes in 30 centimetres and 60 centimetre rolls. So I thought I'd use one of those widths as a basis and then cut shapes within it. Yeah, I really like working with the Haru tape because it's quite a playful medium, and with work when I'm designing sort of geometric work that then I'll paint, you have to spend a lot of time waiting for each layer to dry. So the Haru is good because it's really immediate, and I do a lot of printmaking, particularly screen printing, which I think translates really well into the way that you work with Haru tape, where you're choosing to layer up blocks of colours. The Haru is really flexible because you can play with different colour palettes, and they're very strong, bold colours, but they also have a translucency to them. So when you layer the tapes up, then they do create new colours, which is really nice. So there is quite a lot of fluidity within them, although they're set colours. I like using bright colours because I think that they have a lot of vibrancy and movement that draws you into the artwork. And again, with this particular design, I'm playing a lot with contrasting colours too, to then try and showcase the different colours within the design ranges. And as you can see in the design, the under layer is gold, so it's quite interesting to then lift it, layering different colours on top. In my work I use a lot of geometric motifs, so I'm interested in placing together different shapes to create more shapes. With this one I'm playing with triangles to then form a movement of lines that also form diamonds and bigger triangles together, so it's kind of like looking at using the tapes as a building block to create a bigger installation. So I make geometric art generally, and the medium depends on what kind of space I'm working with. Quite often I'm invited to do work on windows, which essentially uses vinyl, mainly transparent coloured vinyl, which casts beautiful coloured shadows into the spaces, which I suppose it's most easily described as looking like stained glass. And then I occasionally do wall drawings, and that again depends on the medium, so I'll often work with emulsion paint and household materials to then create installations in spaces. For these walls there's sort of slightly different widths, and there's also like a little sort of where the metal girders are, that kind of creates a sort of distraction. So I wanted to have the feel of the space, that the work flows around the walls, and that although the walls aren't uniform shape or sort of dimensions, widths anyway, to then still have a sense of balance. So I worked out what shapes I wanted to put in and then divided the walls to try and make the shapes fit within that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the work, I always sort of set myself these difficult challenges that it's essentially like a very precise jigsaw puzzle. So I have a couple of different rulers that I'm using, and a spirit level as well, to make sure that everything's straight. Where all the shapes meet, because they're pieced together in a very exacting manner, then I need to make sure that they will line up with each other and that they read and flow as you move around the room. What I've been doing for the first stage is I've literally been rolling the tape onto the wall, and I've got a special squeegee which is part of the Haru sort of Nitu brand, and it's got a felt lining to it, so that then when you're running along the tape it doesn't damage or tear it in any way. And that's really good because it helps to smooth out the air bubbles and get a really precise finish on the tape. And then what I've been doing is going along and then cutting, just using craft knife, and set squares just to make sure that all the triangles are neatly right angled and line up with each other. And as I move on to a more advanced stage of the design, I'll work with them using sheets of plastic which I'll roll the tape onto and then cut the shapes and then place them on the wall. So again, like I was saying, it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So I've got these larger shapes which I'm cutting pieces out of and then moving into different locations on the wall. So it's all very logical that each triangle has another triangle that it's been cut out and paired with. So again, that's quite good because then it avoids any wastage and I can maximise the use of the tape at the same time. So yeah, so I just finished installing the artwork and the final results I'm really pleased with. It's interesting because when you design it on a computer screen, you kind of have a gauge of how the colours will look, but until you actually put them up and see how the tapes actually interact with each other, it really can change quite a bit. So the colours in my design were a little bit more muted on the computer screen, whereas in the flesh they're really vibrant, which is great. I think they're a really nice way of showcasing the range of colours in the Haru brand. The idea for the artwork is it's inspired by the London Underground and all the different tile designs. So the shapes kind of form different chevrons, diamonds and triangles within the interaction of the lines. I'm really interested in the way that you can piece things together and they form these really interesting and quite dynamic work that has quite a lot of movement within it too. This process, I've made it in the space of 2 days, but if I was painting it could take quite a lot longer. And also the paint is very permanent, whereas with this, I can take it off and, I mean, even when I've been making design, take it off and moving pieces around to adjust how I like it to look. But with the paint, once you've committed to it, you're stuck with it. So it's quite nice that there's the flexibility with this medium. So for things like this, if you're wanting to do it in your home, it's nice because it's a lot more flexible. And the same actually with the exhibitions where you might take the show down after 6 weeks, so it doesn't really damage the surface of the walls. But then again, one of the main advantages is just that it's really immediate and quick to work with too. So you can find out more about my work on my website, which is www.fionagrady.co.uk. I also use Instagram and Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter handle is Fiona_Grady, Grady spelled Grady.